And we are live. Welcome to the Rebel Roundtable on a nice Friday morning here. And hopefully, your weather is good wherever you are in the country because some people have had some really cold weather. I'm Jen Lee, aka Rebel Esquire. And today I have with me the fabulous Angela Dunn. Fabulous. Well, thank you for being here, Angela. I appreciate it.
I'm so excited to be here, Jen. Thanks for having me.
And Angela is branding badass for lack of that's her brand basically. So whenever I think of Angela, I just think of badass, and that's exactly what you want to do with branding. But I'm gonna go a little sideways at the beginning because, and this will get into branding, I promise. We'll get there. And we're gonna hear all from Angela all about this. But Angela, you are a shareholder for the Green Bay Packers, right?
This is true. I'm in my green today.
I
Woo-hoo.
know. I almost wore a Packers sweatshirt.
Oh. It's surprising to me how many people I meet outside of Wisconsin who actually are shareholders in the Packers.
And I went to college in Wisconsin and grew up as a Packers fan. And so I was there in October and posted my picture from Lambeau Field, and Angela respond, you're at the Holy Land.
It
And so
is
that's
such
how
an
I know someone's a
experience to be
Packers fan.
there. Every time I fly home and go to see my daughter in Marquette, she automatically stops in Green Bay so I can go and kiss the stadium.
There
Holy
you
ground.
go. Holy ground. That's what it is. So not only are you my favorite branding person, but you're a Packers fan. And the way I think that gets into branding is having that unique thing that we connect on seems to me, and I'm not an expert in this, so I'm gonna let you talk, but it seems to be like one of those cool authenticity things that we should be doing and putting out there so that we connect with other people. Is that correct or am I wrong?
Branding really it's you at your essence. And, so many attorneys tell me, oh, I don't need a brand. I work for Baker McKenzie or I work for Dwayne Morris or whatever it is. They think that's their brand. But there are 1,000 lawyers in the Bay Area and elsewhere, whatever your metropolitan area is, that do exactly the same thing that you do. Now, at the end of the day, if we're going to hire an attorney, there's trouble somewhere. There's dirty laundry to be aired. And we need to be able to trust whoever it is. Branding establishes trust and credibility and makes you a human being with that extra something, something that you have, that instead of being a hoity toity lawyer, you're somebody that's real, that I can talk to like a human being.
So just say no to hoity-toity lawyers. And if you're at the airport and you'll go pack go, you may find some friends around you.
Yeah. You can't make up the Lambo leap, right?
Right, exactly. A lot of lawyers I talk to tell me that their work speaks for itself, or if they just do good work, then the pipeline will be
I
filled.
don't know that. I don't know that. I haven't watched your career and seen your work and
Yep.
witnessed your contracts or your litigation or whatever it is that you do. I don't know that. And, it's great to take pride in your work. That is
Mm-hmm.
fabulous. That is a wonderful starting point. But there is always something. One of the attorneys that I'm working with right now is a litigator, but he also writes a lot of contracts. And if you are
Mm-hmm.
a litigator, you write contracts in a different way.
Yes, you do.
And so that is one of his pieces of special something something,
Mm-hmm.
because he writes contracts that aren't going to go into litigation.
Which makes sense. And you have to put that out there as part of your brand. You can't, no one's going to know that unless you tell them that
Yeah,
that's what you do.
we
Yeah.
don't see what our special something something is. We don't,
Yeah.
because we do it every day. And so you need a third party, an objective eye, to shine the mirror back on you and say, hey, here you are. This is what people see in you.
Yeah. Yeah. So you call yourself an accidental entrepreneur. I've heard you say that and you've put it in the thing before. But tell us like how you got to it, like what you do and how you got to be this accidental entrepreneur that you are.
Well, I got my MBA in 2010, and I decided to come to California to be a CMO or a director of marketing, and that never happened. You usually don't go that far into debt to start your own business, and that's why I call myself an accidental entrepreneur. But I do have a really heavy marketing background. And it seems to me that we all have something that just, it's like, well, duh, doesn't everybody else see that? It's just intuitive.
Mhm.
It's something that it's, it's just built into our brains that way. And marketing is that thing for me. And brand is another one of those things for me. I've built so many people's brands and they just don't think it's all that big a deal. But when you really start to build on it, that's when you get the ka-ching ka-ching because, there's things are
And we
clicking.
all like the ka-ching
Uh, uh,
ka-ching.
you know,
Yeah.
Branding is personality,
Yeah.
it's credibility, it's so many different things that people really ignore.
Yeah.
And authenticity is at the core of that. So when you start to express yourself as who you are authentically, you don't have to work so hard at business development. People just automatically believe what you say and they trust you. And you don't have to work so hard. Those relationships come naturally. Those referrals come in naturally. It's a different space to be in.
Yes. And so I have a whole bunch of paths that we could go down here. I know you use LinkedIn a lot for leveraging branding and that kind of thing. You just said something about authenticity though. And I find that on social media or even on websites or blog posts, people can be very generic with they're like, I'm going to share some information about, eminent domain or something like that. Talk about the difference between that and what authenticity
Oh my gosh. One of my
is.
colleagues, he's a super tall guy and he wears pink suits. And I don't mean baby pink, I mean like hot pink,
Oh, I
hot
think,
pink
okay.
tennis shoes, and he's not a girly guy, he's a guy's guy. And so for him, that is being authentic. He loves it. He rocks that. People remember that. He is unapologetically being who he is. And because of that, people automatically trust him.
Yeah.
They're like, this guy, if he can do that, you know, so
He's not
it's,
holding back anywhere. Yeah.
yes. And I think most people are afraid to be who they are in the marketplace. And that's why, generic content, seriously, there's a billion people on LinkedIn. And if all of them are sharing generic content, what kind of a newsfeed would we be looking at? Is the more unique your perspective. I do a lot of thought leadership with people, and that's a 6 to 9 month program for me. And when you do thought leadership, you can't be saying what everybody else is saying. We've heard it all before. We're so jaded right now. We're just like so done with so many things. Our attention span is the shortest it's ever been in history. And unless you can tell me something new or unique or twisted in a different way or show me an image I haven't seen before, until you can be unique, I am not looking at what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I often hear from lawyers that, oh, I'm on LinkedIn. What's the difference between being on LinkedIn and leveraging LinkedIn?
Oh my God, here's my favorite one, Jen. I have a LinkedIn. That one all the time. And that's great. That's a good start because I meet a lot of people who are very anti LinkedIn, and I totally understand that. I have probably the most passionate love hate relationship with LinkedIn of anybody I know.
I know
And
some of the background of that, of why. Yeah.
oh my God, and emphasis on the hate part some days.
Right.
Um, but The fact is, until there is a technology disruption, here we are. This is what we have, and it works. And generally, attorneys will come to me. They'll be like, "So and so down the street just got this big case through LinkedIn. Why can't that work for me?" That's how I get a lot of my clients. So they know that LinkedIn works because it did for this other guy who's a big competitor, or this other gal. Um, so just taking LinkedIn and making it client focused and
Mhm.
clear, two things that attorneys don't really get.
Use so many
I,
words is what we do.
it's fabulous if you've been a super lawyer for 8 years in a row.
It's
That's
not. It's dumb, and who cares
awesome.
about it? But anyway,
But
yes.
that comes way farther down the line.
Mhm.
First of all, you have to let people know very simply, what do you do and who do you do it for? I mean, I know how many contract lawyers, corporate lawyers, business lawyers. What does that
Mhm.
mean? Do you work with startups? Do you work with enterprise? Do you do M&A stuff? What is it that you do? You really, I worked with an attorney, and he
Mhm.
does startups and cannabis. And when those two intersect, he's totally in his sweet spot. So let me know what you do and who you do it for, and you're going to get a lot more business. If I have to
Mhm.
work super hard on trying to figure out what you're all about, if you're not the person for me, I'm going to be pissed off because I just spent all that time looking, and I could have been that much closer to a solution for what I need. So the clarity is really important. And then the other thing is it LinkedIn is not about you. It
What's it
is
about,
about
Angela?
it is about what you do for others.
Yeah.
And once you figure that out, you're and I really try to focus on set it and forget it strategies, because I know attorneys, if it's not billable hours or if it's not productive time, they don't want to be doing it.
Right.
And a lot of people are very, very intimidated by LinkedIn, and I get it. I just sat through a half an hour with one of my clients. She got audited because she's in
Mhm.
the nonprofit space. And it took us a half an hour to find out who had access to the company page so that we could change the address and make it correct. I understand how intimidating LinkedIn can be. It is not user friendly. So the set it and forget it strategies, I worked with an appellate attorney, and oh my God, his profile is the best on LinkedIn, in my humble opinion. Peter is a fairly good writer, and between the two of us, we nailed it.
You
Now,
nailed it.
that
Yeah.
was work I did 3 years ago. Has he had to change one word on that profile in 3 years? He hasn't. And it still works for him very well.
And I find so one of the complaints I get, I like your set it and forget it strategy. And I think attorneys don't know even how to come up with that strategy. So that's where you come in on what that strategy looks like. But how much time, I always hear, oh, I don't have time to be in social media, or I outsource it to a virtual assistant, which is how you end up with these generic posts. But if a lawyer only has like 15 minutes a day to be on LinkedIn, what should they be
Oh my
doing
God.
on LinkedIn?
That's more than enough. That's more
That's
than
perfect.
enough. You
Yeah.
can be extremely successful on LinkedIn if you consistently do 15 minutes a day, even if it's only 3 days a week.
Mhm.
Go into the news feed and like and comment on somebody else's post. I mean, you are 67% more visible if you do one comment a day on LinkedIn. Now, I know attorneys don't like to do comments because sometimes things are controversial or they don't want to take a stance, but there are plenty of, you know, we're improvisers. If
Boring
somebody,
things. There's plenty of boring things they can comment on.
there are plenty of ways. And, here's what all of us want to know. We want to know your industry updates. What's
Mhm.
going on? What laws are changing? What precedents are changing? What is going on in everybody's different practice area that might be very practical for me as a business owner, as a woman, as all the different things that I am? What do I need to know in this day?
Exactly.
Because
Put on note
things
right now.
I love reading the attorney updates. I follow a couple of IP attorneys, and there's such interesting stuff going on with IP and copyright and that sort of thing. And that is adjacent to what I do. And I
Right.
really appreciate knowing all of those things. So, really being proactive about putting stuff out there that isn't too terribly controversial, but is useful to the general public, and do it in a well branded way, and you win.
And let's talk one more second about the engagement, the commenting and liking. I feel like attorneys really and a lot of people, not just attorneys, but mostly attorneys watching this, overlook the power of just making a one line comment, either agreeing or disagreeing with something, and they're like, oh, I'm just gonna surf on LinkedIn, I'm not actually going to engage. I know you said it's like 67% more visibility to do that, which is great. um the other thing that I often see lawyers doing is, or not doing, is like they'll go months and then post something that's super groundbreaking, and then they don't ever follow up or do anything with it. What should they be doing if they have a really cool post that goes, viral, for lack of a better term?
Well, contrary to popular belief, the number one visibility strategy on LinkedIn is commenting on other people's
Not
content.
just comment. It takes 1 second to comment.
I I have a friend that did that, and he all of a sudden, I mean, it seriously took him about a year and a half to get to 30,000, which is influencer status on
Yeah.
LinkedIn. And he hired 5 coaches beneath him to do what he does,
Wow.
because he really elevated his, and he did post things that were very controversial with some people. He made a stand. He was not afraid to use his expertise and his authority to really point out the error in some people's thinking, and people appreciated that. There's a lot of myths out there. There's a lot of misinformation right now.
Yeah.
And if somebody is kind enough and gentle enough to point out where the reasoning is at fault in something, that's incredible. That's an art.
Mm-hmm.
So the commenting is really a big deal. Now, if you listen to some of the people who really do deep research on what the content is all about,
Mm-hmm.
an impression is fairly useless. Even a like, or insightful, or funny, or whatever those other emojis are, think of those as being like 1 point.
Okay.
A comment can range anywhere from 5 to 17 points,
Wow.
depending on the relevancy of that point. Now, that will be 2.5 times bigger if there's somebody from outside of your direct network, a second connection, or a third connection. So the comments really make a big difference. And then every time your points get up to 100, LinkedIn recycles that content through the newsfeed again. So
Okay.
that's why you see certain posts several different times. Or if somebody from your network liked it or commented on it, then you're going to see that again. So the engagement really that is the gift that keeps on giving. That's what everyone is going for. So asking a question, making
Mm,
a bold statement, adding to the conversation, that is what LinkedIn is trying to reward.
interesting. One of the strategies that I've tried to utilize over the years, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, because that's what I'm here for, is but there are some industries where I can't really give referrals to. Like as a bankruptcy attorney, there were some industries I didn't have referrals for. However, one way that I try to show support to people that I'm not necessarily referring to, but would like to support, is that interaction with their content. And I notice I have a few people who do that with me too. They've never really sent me very many referrals, but they're interacting with my content. Is that a valid way to look at things instead of just referrals?
It is. It
So
definitely is. And, you know, there are so many different ways to show your appreciation for somebody else. You know, I belong to a consortium of LinkedIn consultants. And so every once in a while, if somebody said it way better than I've ever said it, I'm going to share their content. I mean, I'm going to
mhm.
share it en masse and say, hey, look at this, something that my colleague said, you know, don't take it from me. Here's something that Sandra said, or here's something that Robert said.
Yeah,
Um, and I have shared whole newsletters also that were written by some of my colleagues. That is a great way to share the love.
yeah,
Not just liking and commenting, but actually sharing the whole post. And yeah, there are lots of different ways to show the love on LinkedIn. You know, I have told client success stories or
yeah.
referral stories, things like that. And people love that more than anything else you're going to post. Wow, this is a real human interaction.
Right. Well, but I think people miss out on that. Like they're just in it for referrals, but they don't realize that there are so many other things we can do to boost thought leadership and boost our brands. And that's almost as valuable to me as a referral is doing some of those things. So
Right. Or, you know, go to their YouTube channel and follow their YouTube channel. There's
yeah,
just so many different ways to show the love.
yeah, show support. Can we talk about one of my pet peeves on LinkedIn and what people do?
Oh, let's please.
My inbox is ridiculous. Like you get hammered all day with this bullshit. And it's just like, here, set up a call with me. And I'm like, I've never met you. I've never had any interaction with you other than we just connected and I was interested in your profile because I accepted, but I'm not hiring you to do anything for me at the moment. So maybe that's wrong, but I just don't like it. I think it's dumb. What do I do with my inbox, Angela?
Oh my God. Okay, first of all, you know, there have been a bunch of us who have been beta testers for LinkedIn for a very long time. And that is one of the number one concerns is that it's so disorganized and you cannot manage that inbox at all. You
Yeah.
can't sort it. You can't, it's just stupid. So
Mm-hmm.
that I can't do anything about because LinkedIn doesn't listen to their beta testers. And that's why I quit. 17 times they did the opposite of what we told them they should do.
Of course.
And
Yes,
so
right.
I'm like, why are we here? Um, but what you can do, I mean, if somebody says, oh, I'm going to make you a 7-figure coach
Whatever.
and
Yeah.
you know, or book you 100 appointments a week, I'm like, could I handle 100 appointments a week? No, I mean, make it realistic for
Yeah.
starters. Um, I block those people. I
Do you? Okay. I was just curious.
judiciously block, and I don't get as much of that anymore. It seems to be
Me
dwindling.
too.
And from what I understand, if somebody gets 10 blocks, they get put into LinkedIn jail.
Oh, really?
And that's 3 days of having their, so it's worth it to take the time to block these people.
Okay.
Because if they get it put into LinkedIn jail twice, the next time they're done.
Interesting.
They're blacklisted and they're not on LinkedIn. And
Hmm.
every derivation of their email address is going to be on that blacklist. Um,
Interesting.
yes. So LinkedIn consultants sort of are self-appointed LinkedIn police. Um, so we
It's
do
just so frustrating. Like you get all these messages.
because it's ruining LinkedIn. It is
Yeah.
ridiculous. Now, here's a scary statistic for you. Pre-pandemic, 30 to 40% of the news feed was baby boomers, and now that is 3%.
Hmm.
60% of the 1 billion people on LinkedIn are aged 25 to 34.
Interesting.
So they don't have the discretion and experience and professionalism. They just haven't gotten there yet. They need some mentors. And there are plenty of baby boomers that are glad to give their opinion on what they think of their content. Now, in our individual networks, we don't see so much of that because we're not connected to them. But
Yeah.
that's what's coming. And that is what
Yeah.
is diluting the etiquette on LinkedIn.
Yeah. I used to have a video when I was practicing as a bankruptcy attorney. I used to have a video that I would respond to any like instant solicitation with that was basically, I don't want a sales pitch, but if you're here to actually talk about a collaboration or something, send me back a video of what you want to talk about, and then maybe I will schedule on your calendar. But since I, moved not to practicing law anymore, I haven't redone that video. But it's really annoying to the ones that send you like 3 or 4 follow-ups saying, why don't you want to talk to me? And I can't,
Oh
I'm
my,
like, stop guilting me with your bullshit. Again, it's my biggest pet peeve.
I was just
Instant
having
messages.
I was just having a conversation with a gentleman of a certain age yesterday, and he
Uh-huh.
said, I have been approached by so many Asian women who look like they're 12 years old, but they were Harvard educated or they went to Yale or I'm like, oh my gosh, or how many times have I gotten that you're so pretty, let's connect, that's completely inappropriate. So there's a level up from blocking, and that's reporting. And
Yeah.
if somebody has crossed a line, I will actually report them because, our distinguished gentlemen on LinkedIn do not need to get solicited with mail order brides from overseas. It's LinkedIn is not the place for that.
It's not the place for that. Yeah, there are other apps for that, I think.
Yes.
Okay. I feel like we could go on all day about all the things, but I want to put like one more tip out there. If a lawyer is just starting to build like their personal brand or they're interested in this like personal brand, and remember, personal brand is different than your law firm brand. Like you're building your own book of business, whether you're at a big firm or you're solo. What do they need? What's like the first step they should take in order to start building that personal brand?
Well, and knowing what their sweet spot
Okay.
is the very best first thing. Is like, who do you love to work with? I mean, who could you just spend tons of hours working on and they fly by?
Okay.
What is that sweet spot for you in business? And who are those clients that you love? And who are your best referral partners? You focus on that and you can build a brand easily because then your personality naturally comes out when you're in your sweet spot. And someone else can help you figure that out. Or you should be listening, have a discerning ear to that, and try to figure out, what is my sweet spot? What are people saying that, oh my gosh, you're so good at this?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you
Listen to your
build the
client.
brand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
if it's irreverence like you, Jen, there's no topic there is no topic that's off the table, right? And I love that. I know where I'm at.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways that people can appreciate who you are and what you do.
Yeah, and be unique and have whatever you like doing, you can make into a brand. It doesn't have to be related to your specific industry. I like wine and coffee and the Green Bay
Yeah.
Packers. I mean, but you can make a brand out of any of that.
Yeah. Or a
So,
pink jacket.
right, exactly. So Angela, I have 2 more things to wrap up. But first of all, where can people find you at? I'm assuming on LinkedIn. They can find you on LinkedIn, right?
I have been trying for 13 years to get a decent website put together, and I still have not succeeded. I'm really close. So please do look me up on LinkedIn. The best information about me and what I do is going to be on LinkedIn. But I do have a website, angeladuns.com, where you can follow my newsletter. So
Very cool.
very simple.
Thank you. And finally, so we do have a Rebel Roundtable playlist on Spotify where we put like our songs, our amp yourself up rebellious songs. Do you have an anthem or a song that you listen to when you want to get pumped up?
Well, I have a crazy little tagline, and
Okay.
whatever your freak flag is, fly it at full mast.
Okay. Is there a song that has that in it?
I not yet.
Okay. Let's find one or let's commission one to be made. That's funny. So yes, you can check out the Rebel Roundtable Spotify list for all of the songs that all of our guests have come up with over our episodes. And we are live on Fridays at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon. And if you need to find me, I'm at lawyersuccessnetwork.com, but Rebel Esquire on YouTube and LinkedIn. Thank you, Angela. I really appreciate you being here. I have a feeling there'll be a follow-up episode to this later in the year. We
Awesome.
can talk about more things. So
Thank you, Jen.
thank you. Have a great Friday.